Ooh, what's up guys? I'm Ben and this is Kame Trick. It's a channel where we enjoy drifting, whether that's grassroots drifting in our real cars or whether that's drifting online in Assetto Corsa. In today's video, I'm going to be giving a course preview and strategy session on Oklahoma Motorsports Complex, or OMC. That's one of our local venues. So if you're not in Oklahoma or planning to come drive with me, and you're just scoping out the channel if you're new, then I recommend you check out one of these cars up here to see some regular content. This is probably not the video for you. That said, in this video we're going to cover the overview of the track, my personal line for attacking it, recommendations for beginners on how to learn to link this track, a few areas to be cautious about where you don't want to have a course out, and last but not least, what it's like to tandem here. And let me tell you, you don't want to miss that footage because this is an awesome little tandem track. One of the best kept secrets in the state, I am sure. So with that said, let's jump into it.
Looking at the background, you can already see that OMC is a nice spot for spectators. There are grandstands, there are on-site restrooms, and there's a great big parking lot. I will say that if you're driving your car to the event, be a little careful driving down the service road to get to the track, because there are several areas where it's eaten up pretty badly, and you need to be careful so you don't fall in massive potholes. As far as the track itself, OMC is a track that is or used to be on the national karting circuit throughout the country, and so you're going to find a very nice road surface that's in a good state of repair. It is an even 30 feet wide at all points, traction is consistent throughout the course, and as you can see, there are several banked turns. You can also build up a fair bit of speed. Often you can enter in third before finishing the track out in second gear. This is the last turn that we drift. We shut it down here, and then you have the ability to turn left down the little service roads to get back to the pits, or if you hang to the right, you can queue up to do another lap. Typically we haven't run this track in a hot lap format, but we certainly could in the future. One thing I want to point out again is this outside and inside sweeper. As you can see, they have a fairly significant bank to them, and that is one of the major unique points about this track. Let's see what it looks like from in-car. In this case, I'm going to enter in second gear with a casual e-brake entry. The first two turns flow very nicely, and you can take any line that you want. But you are going to have to work a little bit to delay your transition for the third outside sweeper so that you can make it around it. I like to throw a manji here, and then you're going to go into the 4 apex right. So there was 1, and here's 2. It does decrease in radius for 3 and 4. That's going to slow you down into this very tight hairpin. This is almost a first gear corner for some cars, and so if you don't make big power or take the right line, it's hard to dig out for this inside sweeper and stay in drift the whole time. That's going to spit you out onto a pretty quick straight where you can throw a manji, gain tons of speed, and throw a big angle into the second to last curve, which then flows into the even slower final hairpin to wrap up the track. For beginners learning OMC, I recommend starting by linking the first 2 turns. You can throw your initiation of choice, you're not going to be going in too fast, and the corners flow very well. So once you get through those 2, you're going to shut it down as you go around the first outside sweeper that you can see here. It's one of the faster sections of the track and a little bit sketchy if you aren't completely comfortable, so I recommend saving that turn to be one of the last you add in as you begin to link the entire track. So we have moved past that first outside sweeper. You can use it to pick up speed and then again throw your initiation of choice into the 4 apex right and the hairpin. You do need to use the whole track, so inside, outside edge, back to the inside edge, back to the outside edge, e-brake to slow down a little bit or foot brake, outside back to inside, and then a smooth transition to finish off the 4 apex right and hairpin turns. Now we're facing the inside sweeper or the inside banked turn. Here again I recommend that you wait to try and link this, so just grip up, add some speed, and then initiate at the end of it, or initiate here, which is where you will end up down on that straightaway. Again, you'll be throwing your initiation of choice. This you can enter kind of fast and throw a big angle transition if you want to. So you'll come in, throw it sideways, kill a lot of your speed, and then transition around this tighter hairpin turn. If you've been drifting at Mac Park, then this will be pretty easy as you're used to that decreasing radius style of turn. Here's my strategy for attacking this track. Second gear, easy e-brake entry, and I'm going to be a little tight around the first turn and let it spit me out wide as I get ready to transition. I'm going to transition tight around the second turn and come out as wide as I can for the second turn. This is going to let me get as far down the track as possible so that I can link the first banked turn on the outside. Coming through here, I throw a manji. Some guys don't. It really just depends on your car's forward bite and traction. Next up, we are facing the 4 apex right. You do need to use all the track here, but watch my wheel and my hands on the wheel, and you'll see that I don't use very much steering input in order to clear all of these turns. It does tighten up here, so I use a little foot brake or e-brake, sometimes both, and then I like to get really tight at this section here for that hairpin turn. And if you finish that last apex tightly and you're way over here, you can transition really early and get on throttle as you cross the apex of this hairpin, so that your car has a pretty decent shot, if you have the torque, to push around the entire inside sweeper. So you'll see I'm on throttle here, and that's going to let my car accelerate, stay in drift at a shallow angle of course, and come all the way around here. From here it's smooth sailing. You're just going to throw a nice transition. Don't go too fast because you'll go off the edge into the tire wall, but catch a big angle and then shut it down for that final hairpin turn. What about low power cars at OMC? Can they do it? Here again we're going to follow my buddy John from YouTube channel John Drives in his naturally aspirated BMW. And you'll see he does pretty similar to what I recommend for beginners. He's going to e-brake in second gear. He won't have any difficulty linking these first 2 turns. And then this is just going to be too much for a low power car, so he's going to grip up, build speed, and then clutch kick midway through this turn so that he can link it into the 4 apex right. As he goes through the 4 apex right, you can check his front wheel and see that he's using a little bit less angle, but it's letting him stay in drift really smoothly, decelerating a touch. He does transition a little bit later than I like here, and so it makes it hard for him to get a smooth transition here. However, he would have had to grip up anyway. So he's going to build up speed, clutch kick to reinitiate on this turn, and then do a transition through here, little e-brake to help him extend and finish up the track as normal. So I would say that a low power car is able to complete probably 85% of OMC, and I recommend, even if you have a slower car, that you come out and enjoy the track. Next up, we'll look at risky areas here at OMC, and first up are going to be both of the banked turns. Now you can see in each case, these turns are banked, and if you fall off the outside edge of the track, they slope away downhill pretty aggressively. What that means is if you go off here, it's going to pull your car down the hill. If you go off on the inside, it's going to pull you into a tire wall, and if you go off on the outside, it's going to pull you into this little fence. So as we come around, look at the outside, you'll see it raises up, and if you look over the edge there, there's a very stout fence, some small trees, a billboard, and a tire wall. So that's definitely a place where you don't want to go off. Also, in general, at OMC, about 20 feet off of the track, just about anywhere, you will find a wall of tires. And you shouldn't be out of control to the point that you go off 20 feet very often, although keep watching to see me do it. But normally, that's also just something to be aware of. Here is what it looks like if you go off of that sweeper. In this case, the driver knows that he's in trouble and hits the brakes so that he's able to slow the car down, but you can see the sharp downward angle that the car is facing at this point. He basically stops here and has no issue. We're able to pull him out with one of the trucks. However, if you had tried to save it and maybe stayed on the power and then went off, you were going to be having a really bad time as you go into that fence. Assuming that you make it around that first turn, your next challenge area is going to be the 4 apex right. So we're going to transition in and go around them, and really it's fine up until the last 3rd and 4th apex, where we tend to have a K barrier on the outside. Here you're going to be carrying a ton of speed, and so you have to be pretty cautious as you're coming in to use some e-brake or foot brake to slow the car down. If you don't use enough, like me, you're going to get really close and either just totally destroy these barriers or do a really, really nice pass like I did just now as you go on by. Once you get around the 4 apex right and the hairpin, the next sketchy area is going to be the inside sweeper, which is less of an issue because you're not carrying any speed, unlike the outside sweeper, because you just got choked up by this hairpin turn. But you can certainly go off here as well if you don't have a good line, or if your car just makes a bit too much power and it catches you off guard. Here is what it looks like as I put a wheel off for science. I come around and you'll see it actually pull the wheel straight for a second. Right there. But I'm able to stay in it, and in this case it was not a problem. But you do need to use your best judgment. If you're not comfortable and you don't have the experience to keep the car under control, if something wild like that happens, I recommend shutting it down and trying again until you get a little bit better line control. Now, assuming you get through all of that, you also can just carry too much speed over the end of the last sweeper here. So in this case I notice and I slow down a little bit and it's all good. However, if I had tried to stay in it and I got caught off guard by it, you can see there's that tire wall ready to collect my car. Also, if you look in the corner near the A-pillar, you can actually see the line of cars waiting to start. So not only do you not want to plow into that wall of tires, you certainly don't want to plow into it fast because you might end up throwing something, including your own car, into the folks waiting in line. I've never seen it happen. I have seen people go into the tires and it's totally stopped them. But, you know, just something to be aware of. Last but not least, let's look at what it actually looks like to go into the tire wall. So I make it around the inside sweeper, carry tons of speed down the straightaway, which is coming up right here. And on my last transition, everything just goes sideways. And I realized later when watching the footage what happens is my wheel actually gets hung up and I don't notice it. So I failed the transition and the car goes straight a little bit too far, which puts me offline and sends me straight into the tires. Obviously, that was a bad time, and I recommend that you be careful to avoid doing what I just did. Although sometimes you get lucky because here is the resulting damage.
Holy shit, I'm lucky as it actually didn't hurt anything.
So I live to fight another day. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite question. What's it like to tandem at OMC? In this clip we're going to be riding along with Aaron Losey, the leader and event organizer of Texas Lone Star Drift, and as you can see, you can throw some beautiful tandems out here at this track. Unlike Mac Park, it is nice and wide and it gives you the opportunity to get pretty close on your lead car and still have room to drive. So, as long as you're rolling with folks who have good line control, it is a super fun place to tandem, and I highly recommend it. Also here, Aaron is going to do that early transition and just pull right up alongside Zach in that hairpin, like I talked about in my core strategy section of this video. Oh man, what a nice run. That is so great. I'll put a card in for this video. I have a whole Tandem Talk breakdown section on this, and it was just a really good day. This is one of my favorite videos I've ever made. Here you can see the view of that run from my car as I chase behind them, and this is going to show you what some of the faster, higher horsepower cars are able to do as far as linking this straight without using a manji. I do recommend that you communicate with your tandem buddies so that they know what you're going to be doing. That way, you know, they know to expect you to throw a transition or not at certain areas. And there again, what a cool job doing that transition really early so that he can pull up alongside Zach and then just politely wait for him to go ahead and pull back in front before finishing the lap. Here's what it looks like for a car that needs to throw a manji after that first outside sweeper. You can see that I take a bit of a wide line and give Aaron plenty of room to get all locked in for our tandem. I did warn him in advance so he knows not to push quite as close through this section, and I also didn't do the best job at staying wide here. I'm pretty much on the curb, but he knows to expect me to manji there so that he doesn't drive into the back of me, and then we continue on around. One other note is watch your lead car if you are tandeming with somebody, and especially communicate with your tandem buddy, because it's entirely possible for someone to need to throw a really tiny manji in the middle of this 4 apex right, or sometimes just straighten up and then reinitiate. And if you are on their door and not expecting it and not paying enough attention to them to know, you will definitely hit them if they decide to throw a manji and you're super close thinking that they're just going to carry on around like we are. Fortunately though, in this clip and with this group of guys, we all know what we're doing. We're very predictable, and that enables us to really enjoy getting super close as we go through the 4 apex right and hairpin. I don't have a whole lot to add here. It's just really fun to watch tandem from this track, so I'm going to let you guys enjoy this couple seconds. Here's another clip of our guys running the 4 apex right into the hairpin. Just such a fun time. You will see also how the sun interacts. So OMC, because it's lit, is one of the tracks that we get to drive at night. So you do get to drive with the sun coming into your eyes, which is a little bit of a challenge. Don't get caught off guard when that happens. Also, I've paused the video here because one thing that you don't want to do at OMC, or really anywhere for that matter, if you are not sure that you're the last car in a tandem train, do not stop drifting before the end of the course unless everybody in the train knows that you're going to do it. Pretty much don't stop drifting until the course is finished. In this case, I'm not sure who, but probably the first or second car stops the turn before the final turn, and you see Zach and I almost bash into each other as we unexpectedly just have to shut it down. So that's always something to be a little bit cautious about. That's pretty much everything that you need to know for drifting at OMC. I'm going to leave you with a rain clip. Don't forget to do what I mentioned in the rain clip. Thanks for watching, guys.
You're watching Kame Trick, the channel where we party with cars.